Welcome, traders. Wanted to do a video on the KP2 ratio indicator and the KP2 indicator, which is going to be out very shortly. What I wanted to do that was a little bit different is to go over what the indicator is actually telling us. So there's two things that the indicator can tell us. The indicator can tell us in real time if there is an accumulation or distribution that is getting stronger. It can also tell us if price is moving in a direction, if it can keep going in that direction. And it's also giving us the ability to look back at previous apexes to see if the current move has more strength or less strength. And I wanted to again use a current example from today, but from the ZN chart, because the ZN is giving us some excellent trading opportunities here, and kind of go through what I am thinking as I am looking at this chart. So we see that we had a very good sell-off here, starting at about 11 a.m. and took it down to where it eventually bottomed and then came back up. And again, you can see how the delta strength indicator set at 250 is really giving you a good idea about when you should be buying and when you should be selling. So again, just a unique indicator that only ZoneTraderPro has, along with this KP2 idea. I want to go back here though and take a look at what was happening back here and basically walk step by step through what is on the chart and how you can be reading something. Okay, real quickly, the setup for the chart is the same. We are not reconstructing the tape and there is not a minimum filter. And one reason why I'm not doing this is because I haven't looked extensively at the ZN market. I really don't have a set number that I'm interested in looking at. And the whole purpose of this is to get to know the new indicator and not really be looking at what is the best number to be putting in here. So again, as before, not reconstructing the tape, minimum filter of 1. The most important thing is the price deviation value here at 0.09375. And the KP2 indicator, same thing, 1, 2000. And then the KP2 ratio indicator here, 1, 2000. And deviation contracts at 1, key points at 3. Okay, so let's look at what we have historically back here on the chart. At about 7:30 this morning, we had this double top right here. And as we can see from the strength of that double top, there was not really a significant amount of buyers to get us to the top. And the KP2 was only a 555. Now that's extremely small for the ZN market. And when you compare it to the top that it made back here, where it was almost 2,000, you again understand how we compare a previous high to the current high. And then what we see here is we see an excellent distribution trade, and we see exactly what we're looking for right here. We see a lot of contracts, that's to be expected, but then we see a very high KP2 ratio and higher than before. That's going to give us our indication that our distribution is working. Now, remember, when we have a distribution based on this, what you're seeing right here is you're seeing a distribution based on market orders from this point to this point, okay? And when I say that we have a distribution based on a KP2 ratio, basically what we are looking at is the limit orders between this point of the low and where it comes to here at the high. So we're looking at two different sources for distribution. Market orders for the entire move high to high, and limit orders from the low to the high. Okay, and as we look at this, we see exactly what we wanted to see. We see the V that we're looking for. And at this point here, this is the point we get the zag down. So the line that we're looking for right here as our sell signal, where both the KP2 number is decreasing and the ratio is decreasing, is what we're looking for right here. And then the line zigzags at this point right here on the chart. It really didn't zigzag all that much, got a little bounce. And then what you actually see is you see buying from this point all the way to here. But what's interesting is even though you have the zigzag, the KP2 ratio itself is rising. And what does that mean? Well, that means that as price is going sideways, they are trying to buy it, but the ratio is telling us here that they are coming in with limit orders and absorbing the supply. At this point here, once they get done absorbing the supply, you then see both the ratio and the KP2 moving in the same direction, which is extremely good for our short. And right here we have our bottom, and we have that V that we're looking for if we were to be going long or covering a trade. We then trade into this exhaustion trade right here. And again, the reason why we have the delta strength on the chart exactly at the low, right as we have a V in the indicators, we have a large lot trader coming in with 250 contracts, taking us up into this divergence trade. Now, the trade we really want to look at is what's going to happen down here. Why did these moves right here basically amount to a precursor to this sell-off? So let's take a look at that. So we have our divergence trade right here. I don't really see anything on the chart that's worth talking about. Here we do have a special divergence trade. Again, if we were going to take this, we do have good reasons to take it. We don't know what's going to be over here on the right side of the chart. We have two large lot buyers, so good for us. But then we trade into this distribution trade right here, again with a large number right here, 311, giving us this distribution trade. And this is what is so important about the software. If you had bought back here, and as you see price going along here, without the ZoneTraderPro indicators, you have no idea what these numbers are telling us. You don't know that there is, in effect, a distribution going on here, and no way to know that you should be out of that trade. With the software, you had an excellent reason to get long here, but now you're being told information that is a good reason to get out and reverse that trade. Now, what's really interesting is something that's going to happen over here, and I really want to talk about this right here. As we see from right here, the KP2 number on the chart is a 311. Okay, that's fine. But as price traded sideways, okay, a new high wasn't made. So because that new high wasn't made, this number wasn't updated. It's 311, and it's based upon this bar to the apex at this bar right here. Now, here's the main reason for this indicator. Because as price traded sideways, and what we're seeing in real time starting right here is a combination of a huge increase in buyers, but at the same time, a huge increase in sellers on limit orders. And that's the reason for the spike in the KP2 ratio. Now, unfortunately, that number gets all the way up to about 900. And just from back here, it was just 300. But that number isn't going to be what gets updated to right here, because again, in order for this to recompute, we needed to have made a higher high, which we didn't do. But this is the reason for the indicator. Now, something else happens that's really interesting right here. Here is where we have a new zigzag. So this downsloping part of the indicator from right here is because we're painting a new zigzag. We told it to go ahead and paint the new zigzag. But immediately, the numbers that are being painted are based upon the numbers that are coming from back here. And as you saw, there was an awful lot of buying right here that was being absorbed by sellers. So this is where you're going to learn something. Right here, the buyers continue to buy, and again, they take this even higher. And again, we have this huge ratio that to this point right here is based on the buyers from here to here. But again, what is that telling us? That is telling us that the market is under distribution. If price was going to be going higher, the ratio and the KP2 would be going higher, and so would the price. If the price doesn't go any higher, then what do you have? You have a distribution. Those people are going to be there defending their positions. Now, we come and we have a second distribution here, this time with a 440. That's fine. That's fine. But look what we've done right here. As price traded down, we again form a new zigzag, this point right here. And while we would expect the opposite, that instead of going from a high to this low right down here, on an up zigzag, we're actually negative. Okay, so what that is that's reflecting again the selling from this point, the overall selling from that point to the new zigzag. Look at what this is telling you. This is telling you that from here to here, there was a net number of sellers. And it actually got lower at this point on the chart right there. Then, however, buyers came in, and so did the sellers on limit orders. That's what this is telling us. But what this was telling us here is we now have lower lows being put in on the KP2. They were selling it pretty hard from this point to this point, trying to take it down. They couldn't do it, and the sellers got a better price, and we're going to have this big sell-off down here. One more time, what happens? Well, now we're given another little clue right here as the sellers drive it down. We've got a lower low on our KP2, and we are basically matching this KP2 ratio down here. This ratio is a negative 32, and it's actually very close to being special divergence. So that's not really telling us very much. But again, the third time up, and what happens? Again, we have a pretty good number here and a fairly good number with the ratio. But this time, as we're up here, then we see what the seller's true intentions are. They got better prices, and we see what our delta strength is telling us. So I just wanted to do the video basically because of this right here, and it looked like it was just this big giant distribution, but you have to understand what is happening intrabar to be able to quote unquote read what this indicator is telling you. And I just thought that was really interesting when I saw this, how this was basically supporting a distribution right here, even though we were on a down leg, which is something that you wouldn't normally see or see with any other type of indicator. And here's going to be another example of how the indicator is basically working for you if you're able to read it. We see right here, we have a higher high being made. And then what happens right here, we have special divergence. And our ratio was telling us, of course, that we had a distribution going on. That would be normal after a strong trend, all right? But here we had special divergence, and again, we had another nice sell-off. Of course, many buyers on market orders all throughout here, and when we got to our exhaustion trade right here, we not only had a special divergence signal, but we had two 250 lot traders, and then we see the very strong move we made higher right here. Again, I'm seeing a lot of really good divergence signals on this chart, and I'm seeing a lot of the delta strengths being able to help us with these trades. So I strongly suggest that rather than watching the ES throw a fit, that you look to the ZN and see if that's appropriate for you to trade. Everybody out there, take care and stay safe. Have a good day.